What's up, traders? It's your boy Ace Boogie coming to you live and direct. Hope you're having a nice last day of 2020. I wanted to do some trade recaps. I haven't recapped my last few trades um, over the video yet, and I want to just go through and see what I did, point out some good things I did, some bad things I did, and kind of learn from it. So I think the last trade I did was first we'll go over TSNP and the DSGT. I had two losses on these two stocks. TSNP was the 22nd. I got in at 1570. So let's see if we can find that. TSNP. So on the 22nd. So I bought it on this day. So looking at, the big picture, I'm buying it on the first green day. Um, the volume, I guess it was there compared to the previous days. It matched the last few days' volume and it exceeded it down here. So on the macro level, on long term, look, it looks good. Me buying it on this first green day. Let's dig in deeper. 22nd was this day right here, and I bought it. Let's see, turns 5-minute charts. Let's see if we can get a better view. All right, so the 22nd is this day, and I bought it at 1570, and I think I bought it right here. So I didn't buy the higher day. I bought it um, in the afternoon around 1 o'clock at 1570. So it was over these highs. This high was 1550 right here. I think I bought over these highs thinking that it was going to spike and break out over the morning high, which it did, but it didn't go far. It got stopped out at 16. And I believe I cut my loss at 15.5 when it couldn't hold. I didn't wait for all of this to happen. But I went in with a decent bit of size. So going back to the spreadsheet, I went in with $1,200 or 8,000 shares, which turns out to be $1,200. And that drop. Oh no, that was the wrong one. Okay, so I didn't go in with that much size, but decent. Um, Cutting it at 15.5, only lost 1%, 1.5%, which was $16. So that was a good stop out, even though if you look at it, if I would have just held it through that day, which would have me, down at the low 15s, it did gap up the next day. And in retrospect, me looking at TSNP, how it has gapped up in the past, it usually does weak closes and then gaps up, weak close and gaps up. Let me see if I can show you some more examples of the weak close and gap up. And just me not being in tune with the markets or trying to trade on the go, I just forgot to realize that. So let me see. This was the little consolidation days. Get rid of all this. So, but look, spiking, 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 and kind of a weak close, but it gapped up. Spiking, 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 spiking. Sold off in the end of the day, weak close, but it gapped up. So even when it was downtrending at the top of the move, on the backside of the move, it weak close and still gapped up and sold off the next day. But this is a gapper type stock. It has tendencies on gapping, and I should have knew that just from my experience trading it recently. But on the 22nd this day, week close, gap up, but I ended up cutting my loss right at 1% and just didn't even risk that exposure because, like I said, the volume it was a little bit more than the couple of previous days, but it still wasn't anything like this. So it's always good to protect yourself and protect your capital because once you run out of capital, you run out of ways of making capital. So that was TSNP. My other loss I took This past week was DSGT on the 22nd as well. The 22nd just wasn't my day. As you can see, I just had a red day on that day. But I got in at 65 cents and got out at 60 cents. And it was a first green day long play as well. So going back to the daily chart, if you'll have an update. There it is. 22nd was this day right here. I was buying it on this day and I bought it at 65 cents. I ended up cutting it at 60 cents. So let's see what happens. I mean, just looking at it, it's a breakout day, a big first green day over the highs. It was a good day to be buying it. So me buying it on this day, I'm already set up for success. You can see how it ran afterwards after I took my loss. It's unfortunate that that happened, but it is what it is. But just I think that day just wasn't my day on the 22nd. I took two losses and I didn't really have a clear risk. My risk wasn't fully defined, and that's what caused the losses, in my opinion. Also, scary stocks too. So, 60 cents. This was 61 cents. So I'm pretty sure I bought it. Man, I wish I had my the times. 54, 65. So I'm pretty sure I bought it on this spike right here. Let me zoom in some. So higher day breakout, and it was starting to break out to new highs, and it broke out, but then it sold off like crazy into the end of the day, and that was just a real big sell off on the 22nd here, and I just wasn't cool with that. So once it couldn't hold 60 cents, which was this breakout area, I cut the loss. It tried to bounce up around this area, and I think I cut it in this candle right here. But yeah, it tried to go, but it kind of went too far too fast, is what it seems like, and it sold off at the end of the day, and I just couldn't manage that risk anymore. And that one ended up taking a bigger hit on it because I went in with $1,600. I took 2,500 shares at 65 cents, and I lost about 8% on that one. So I actually tried to be more patient with this one, but it still ended up not working out. So sometimes you get those days, it's just like that. It just nothing seems to work out. But as you can see, it sold off, had some chop days where it was in like the 50s, but I should have been watching it for the breakout above these highs again. That would have been the ideal entry point. It was just like the 71 cent area. Once it broke out over that 71 cent area, it's over that resistance that knocked it down, and it's off to the races. And you can see what it did. You know, ended up consolidating, breaking out some more, and on yesterday it actually really went from sub dollar all the way up to $1.30. So that's a big move. So those were my two losses, DSGT and TSNP. What I want to talk about now is ALPP. I traded this ticker in multiple accounts, so I won't have all of the trade markers on this software, but I do have my entries. So first play I had on that was on Christmas Eve. I went in at 287, and then on the day after Christmas, or that Monday, I got out at 369. So let's see if I have those trade markers on here so it can give you a better visual. I think I do. So just looking at the macro first, I was buying it on Christmas Eve, which is this green day right here. Great green day to be buying. The breakout day over the highs. So I got in like in the 280s. I think it was like 286, 285, 287. So I got in about right here, and then I sold I sold a few times. I sold into strength, but my average was like 369. But let's pull it up. Let's pull it up on the 5 minute chart. ALPP is now on the second red day and starting to reverse back down to some of the support, and we're going to be looking for a bounce around 250 in the next couple of days. But I basically bought it on this little dip right here on this strong day. It was really the only significant pullback it had that whole day besides the morning. But I bought it right in here, and it ended up gapping up overnight, or it ran after hours. But no, it didn't. I'm talking about something else. I'm sorry. It ended up gapping up, and I ended up selling all the way into this spike right here, just into strength. I didn't give it any time for it to reverse on me. Just followed the plan and sold at 54, 65, 75, and like 85, something like that. So that was the first play on ALPP. That same day, I did get back in for a nice VWAP dip buy entry. It shows right here. Let's see what the actual stats are. I got another 150 shares at 409. I ended up getting out at 446 for 8%. So that's this right here. Boom. And that was pretty good. That was a decent, very decent pattern right there. And this wasn't the ideal VWAP dip buy. The ideal VWAP dip buy is the same entry, but we want the exit really to be at the test or breakout of that high. But it was very overextended. It just spiked like another 40% after gapping up like 30%. And it just seemed like it was topping out right here. So I went ahead and just booked a single right here. I didn't want to wait for the reverse on me or anything like that. But it did end up popping up over that higher day and basically doing a whole nother VWAP dip buy entry. Came back down the VWAP area below 420s and popped back up to 475. So that was nice as well. So those were my two initial trades on ALPP with this account. Um, cool. The next trade I had was BSRC on the 28th, that same day. So let's pull that up. BSRC. What I do is I always pull up the daily chart first, show you the macro. So buying it on this big green day, green day breaking out over these highs, and it's a good day to be buying it. High volume. So you always want to see if on the macro level, are you buying it on the correct day? Are you buying it on volatile days? Are you buying it on high volume days that's taking out key levels? All right, we said it was the 28th. So let's go back. Here it is right here. Um, so this one, it was as far as the pattern, if I had to put a pattern on this, I would say it was more like a modulated VWAP dip buy. Except it wasn't VWAP. I was using 650 support as the area to consider buying up to, because I saw that it had taken a while to break over that 650 area. So I know that previous resistance is going to be support coming back down. So I waited for that spike to top out, which it did top out right under 8 cents. So I knew 8 cents was my resistance. I knew 650 was my support. So once it started to pull back, I wanted to get in as close to 650. I got in a little bit higher just because OTC stocks, especially in the middle of the day around 12 p.m. Eastern, they get real choppy. They get illiquid, and the spread opens up a bit. So a lot of times it'll drop down to 650. You'll put an order in, but it'll be too late. It's already bouncing at that time. So I just decided just to fill my order in two parts, get half my order right away, and then if it dipped down further and I felt like I can get some more shares, I usually added or I added to that. So once it dipped down, it held that 650 area and started to curl back up. You see this like little rounding up pattern, a rounding up shape. That's like a curl, like a U shape. And I was looking for it to break out and really to see if it can test 9 cents. Once it broke over 8, it actually kept going pretty well. But then I noticed it was getting very choppy. The spread was kicking in again, and it was going from like 820 back down to like 750. 820, 750, kept doing that. 8 cents to 750. But it finally did break through that resistance at 8 cents, and I sold pretty perfectly into strength on the way to 9. I think my sales was like at 880. So this was a solid play too. This one also had a kind of like a weak close, and the next morning had some strength. So you could have held this one, but I likely wouldn't have held a drop all the way down below 650. This would have shook me out. But I definitely did hold and gap up. This one, 23% on that. So this move was roughly 23%. So solid play on that one. All right. Next on the list is ALPP again. This one, okay, I bought this one on the 29th at 389 and I got it at 39. This was the morning panic dip buy attempt on ALPP. So I tried to do an AM panic dip buy on ALPP. On the first day, it started to go red and didn't quite work out. I was a little bit early. So I was driving, mind you, or I wasn't at my desk, so I couldn't do this. I couldn't see basically how high off the highs it had dropped. So I knew it hadn't dropped 30 to 50% off the highs like the pattern says. It only dropped like, 15, 20%. So I got in right here and it kind of bounced quickly to VWAP and came right back down. Like it was a quick pop and it came right back down. And at that point, I had no confidence in it anymore. My conviction level was very, very low. So I ended up cutting it for like 2 cents a share or something like that. But turns out it wasn't the bottom. It kind of bounced up through VWAP. I probably would have sold up there if I had caught that, but it wasn't the bottom, and it came down and broke down to new lows. And this was the real bounce, and it was around 10 o'clock. This bounce was a little bit too early. And if you measure this one, 30 to 50% off its highs is what we aim for these AM panic dip buys. This one was 26% off its high, so closer to 30 than 18%. So this one, even though I profited like a dollar or something like that, I consider this like a scratch trade, a break even trade. But nonetheless, the pattern's still there. So if you actually catch the bottom or you're patient enough to let the bottom formulate and you get in anywhere in this area, anywhere in the low threes, anything under 370, I would say, you can ride it up to, almost 450 and make a decent piece of change. Let's say if you got in at 370, you just went to 420. That's 13%. That's a solid play right there. So the pattern was there. I just executed it the wrong way due to distracted trading because I wasn't in my office. I didn't have my full attention on all of the things that I could have to make me successful. But it's okay. Next one is BNGO. This is when this one started running. This one I had a loss on it. This one was kind of frustrating. 12.29 got in at $1.09, out at $1.07. BNGO. All right. So Looking at the macro, BNGO, I'm buying it. This was this trade right here. I'm buying it on this big breakout day, high volume relative to the previous days, and breaking out over key resistance area. So I'm buying it on the right day, and it has the right setup on a macro level. Let's see what happened um, on the intraday level. So here's what I did. I was trying to play the dip. I was trying to find a bottom to see if it'll reverse. And here's what happened. I bought it thinking that it was going to try to do a VWAP push. I was looking for a VWAP dip buy, um, but it wasn't holding up the way I wanted to hold up, and it got really weak. And I didn't want it to break under $1 on me, and that's exactly what it did. But before it did that, I ended up cutting it for like 2 cent loss. But I was on the right track because look what happened once it found this bottom and this reversal actually took place. It basically shot straight up for the next 3 days. So BNGO was a or is a killer move or killer mover, and it's still going right now. We're still trying to go. So that was my loss on it. It wasn't too bad. It was a scratch. I lost 2.5%, $20. Only had put $700 into that trade, but it's all good because I got back in. But I got back in a different account. So that same day I got back in at 135, and I took it all the way into the next day and got it at 198. So let's see what that looks like on the chart. So I ended up getting in at 135. So I got in right here. No, I got in on the dip. So I got in right here, and I was risking VWAP level, or basically like the 125 area. That was my ultimate risk, that 125 area. I'll put the line up there so you can see what it looks like visually. But it ended up being VWAP area. But I was really playing the $0.25 level. So I got in basically risking 10 cents, thinking I could make 30, 40 cents. Ended up getting out the next day right here. So ended up making a nice piece of change on that one relative to the position size I took. So that was the first BNGO trade. The next one I had was the next day. I got in at 205, got out at 229. Let's see what that one looks like. And this one should be on here. Here it is. So this one I got in, we'll get into the 1 minute chart. We'll blow it up for you. This one's all right. I kind of mistimed the exit a little bit, trying to hold out on it, but it was still a solid play. I got in for the break of $2. Once $2 showed that it wasn't indestructible and it could be penetrated, I got back in for a push through. It kind of spiked back down to the 195 area, held, came back through, and was basically squeezing. Like it was very choppy, very very choppy. Every time it went up, it came down. It basically pushed 4 cents, then retracted 2 cents, and then consolidated for a little bit. Then pushed up 4 more cents, then retracted again. But then it ended up pushing all the way up to the 230s, and I knew that it was pretty overextended here, so I went ahead and just booked the profits. And on that one, it was made about 11%, so solid play, solid play. Um, and that was BNGO 205 to 229. The last stock I traded this week was NOVN. And this one was pretty cool because somebody in chat alerted me to the stock, and it ended up working out pretty good for me. Um, all right, so looking at the big picture, I'm buying it on this big green day, key area or breaking over key resistance area. It broke out on that day, and it's big volume. So that's the first thing you want to see when you're buying is you're buying it on the first big green day, and you want to make sure there's volume there. So with NOVN, this is what I did. So NOVN reminded me of some other trades that I took previously. TSNP, GHSI, MVIS, MARK, all those stocks when they were trading under $1 a share, they had a similar pattern where on high volume days they end up breaking over $1. But before they go ahead and before they spiked after that breakout, they come back down and basically hold a higher low. And I was looking for that specific move, and that's exactly what NOVN did here. So I was waiting for I wouldn't touch it unless it broke over $1. I already knew it was overextended. It came up from like 50 cents, and I knew what the history was. So I in my head I was already thinking this is a day trade because it never continues the next day. This is a one and done type of play. This is like the only day that I had like a spike up the next day. Usually when it has a big day, it just sells off that day, or it gaps down the next day. So I knew that this trade was going to be a quick trade just looking at the chart history. Um, but whenever it popped over $1, I saw that $1 was not indestructible. I think it popped over $1 right here. So I ended up buying some just under $1, and I bought some more once it held the support at 95 cents. And I was basically risking 92 cents, which was the bottom of this consolidation area right here, the support area. But it did exactly what I thought it was gonna do. It popped over $1, came down, held, and pushed back through $1, and ended up, pushing nicely all the way up to, a buck 17, a buck 18, something like that. And I sold nicely into strength because right after that is where it kind of had a decent pullback all the way down to VWAP area, that 95 cent area. It did bounce afterwards, but this was the high of the day right here. So that was a good sense in selling into that strength. Um, Once the goals were met, my goals was only 10%. So if I get in at $1, 10% is 10 cents. So I got in slightly under $1, and I got a little bit over $1.10. So made about what 14% on that one, 13, 14%, 15%. So pretty cool. So those were my only trades, or this is the trade recap that I'm doing today. Not trading anything today, even though BNGO looks like it wants to squeeze these shorts. We'll see what it does. I'm not trading it regardless, but I'm really expecting this one to have its first red day, either Monday or a day or so after that, and basically do what ALPP is doing now and reversing. But on that first red day, I'm looking for the AM panic dip buy. I don't think I'm going to be shorting any of these. I'm just going to look for this big drop and try to play the bounce after the drop, just like this right here. So we'll see what it does. But that's all I got for you today. A little bit longer video than I normally make. Hope you have a happy and safe new year. Ace Boogie 2488. And I'm out. Peace.